Disclaimer: this video is of humorous nature only. The author does not seek to insult or humiliate anyone. The video may contain profanity. People under the age of 16 should refrain from watching this video. Story 1. I had a crush on this skinny little red-headed trumpet player. We were in band together and he seemed nerdy and nice. He was a year older, but he was always nice to me. One night, we were at a party. He told me a story about how the brother of another girl we went to school with got drunk one night and raped her. The whole school had found out about it. He was telling this story like it was the funniest crap he ever heard. He then proceeded to tell me that he went up to the girl at school and laughed at her for getting raped by her brother. Not only did this 17-year-old girl get raped, she got raped by someone who is supposed to love and protect her. Then everyone finds out about it. Then this piece of crap goes up to her and laughs in her ducking face about it. I've never gone from liking someone to hating someone so fast. I hope he's grown up and realized what a ducked-up situation that was. I hope that moment that he went up to her is one of those moments that keeps him up at night and fills him with shame and regret. Duck You John Edit. Change the name. Story 2. I had a crush on a pale black-haired guy named Wyatt in high school. He looked so interesting and intensely handsome at the time. I also loved that his name was Wyatt. I grew up watching Tombstone, and I thought that was the most amazing name for a guy. One day, a new girl came to school and it started to rain. She was a harmless, free spirit type who was just happy experiencing life. Totally inoffensive and a little loopy, but genuinely sweet. It started to rain outside and she, little nature-loving spirit that she was kind of wheeling around in the rain, enjoying herself, feeling the water, indulging in petrichor, and a group of us were watching from the porch. Wyatt, who up until then had seemed like an accepting, kind person, announced, "I hope that dumb bitch gets hit by a car." That was my first lesson in understanding that people you think are beautiful are not at all beautiful. Some of them are just hateful. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with him after he dropped that bon mot. Story 3. Story 4. He broke up with his girlfriend and I thought I might be interested. But then he and his ex appeared to be back together, so I backed off. Then I found out from another friend that he had absolutely no intention of getting back with his ex. He was just using her for affection and attention. My crush dried up and blew away in the wind immediately. Story 6. Had a crush on my superior, and one day we were talking about the horrible and horrifying news of a girl being sat in a bus by a group of men and left to die. This was the New Delhi case that broke India, and it was making headlines everywhere. I remarked that it was just such a horrifying news, and he said, "What time was it and what was she wearing?" At that moment, all affections for him went out of the window. I was so mad at him and was this close to slapping him for making such a misogynistic statement. Story 7. This happened over 10 years ago when I was in college. I was pretty interested in this girl I had the same major as. We would walk to classes together and study together. Then the Eric Garner incident happened and black students peacefully protested on campus. They didn't interfere with classes or interrupt anything. We were walking to class one day and she loudly proclaimed, "I hope all these monkeys get shot." Her and I are both white. It was one of the most embarrassing, disgusting experiences of my life. I'm typically not someone who can flip an emotional switch. It takes time, sometimes a long time. In that moment, though, I was instantly done. Never talked to her again or walked to class with her again. Story 8. We'd only been dating for about 2 weeks. He took a long detour to take me home, and I thought it was because he wanted to spend a little more time together. So I said something like, "Hey, so how come you took the long way back?" Trying to be playful about it and expecting him to say something sweet. He said, "Because I'm not driving through that neighborhood. There are too many N-words there." Nope, nope, nope. Story 9. Had a thing for this girl until she sent back food at an Indian restaurant BC. It was too spicy, after being told it would be spicy, and there was no other way to make the dish. She acted super condescending and demanding, and it embarrassed me a ton lol. You could tell she never worked for service, haha. Story 10. 1. We had a lunch together that was full of innuendo, but in a coy way that was even intimateer. Then I went to work. By the time I got off my shift, she had gone into and liked every picture I'd ever posted on Facebook. Ever. I had hundreds of notifications. Lunch was nice, but it was not a proportional response. I told her it wasn't happening. 2. Another woman. We were hitting it off and decided to head back to her place. Safe to say, I was excited. Step inside, all smiles, hands on each other. Hanging on the wall right inside the door an 8-foot Nazi flag, shocking red with swastika the size of my torso. She says she just has it up for laughs. I wasn't laughing. I was too young to be confrontational, so I made a lame excuse and jetted. I could do more, but they start to get increasingly gross and sad, and I don't want to think about them. Haha. Kept trying, though. Story 11. I had a crush on a boy that lasted from 2nd grade, so about 8 years old, till the beginning of 6th grade, 12 years old. I was head over heels for him and only got to have fleeting moments together that never really lasted long. Until 6th grade, we finally had a class together and I got to be his seatmate. I was over the moon for all about 5 minutes. He just kept talking and ducking talking. When I'd finally get a word in edgewise, he'd keep one-upping anything I brought up. So yeah, my 3-year-long crush died in a matter of minutes after actually talking to him, lol. Story 12. Went to meet his family. Within 2 minutes, he kicked his family dog. His dad then said, "Bad dog," and took the dog outside, making it pretty clear where he learned the behavior. I wanted to take the dog with me so badly. It's been over 10 years, so not sure she's still with us, but I would think of her from time to time. Story 13. Sitting around a campfire, the conversation about seroejaculate or cum, semincision came up, and she started going into great detail about how gross she thinks seroejaculate or cum, semen-sized penises are. Unfortunately, I am seroejaculate or cum, semen-sized, through no decision of my own, as is often the case. One of my other friends thought it would be a good idea at that moment to ask me, "Hey, aren't you seroejaculate or cum, semen-sized?" Me while dying inside. Yeah. Story 14. Guy everyone thought was hot and dreamy legit kicked a puppy in front of my face. Not like a football, but in a "you're in my way." Still fairly harsh, shove with a foot manner. I still hated him for it. Years later, I saw on the news he'd murdered his girlfriend in front of their toddler. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Story 15. There's a girl I met when I was 14 at Anime Expo and had this really magical, romanticized, innocent young love summer type of feel. These were the early days of the internet. We kept in touch over AIM, and one day she sends me a video of a guy getting decapitated alive by some soldiers, and she wrote "lol." Pretty much killed all the magic for me and stopped talking to her after that. Story 16. I had a slight crush in this guy Daryl. I saw him at the skating rink and started talking to someone he was with. IDK if I had even talked to him at this point, but we had a lot of mutual friends. All of a sudden he turned around and said, "Damn, you're ugly." Now I was a 12-year-old girl and knew I wasn't ugly, but it still destroyed me. Even if I was, why would you say that to someone? I was crowned prom queen, and he was there, and I wanted to say something smart so bad, but I didn't. Isn't it weird that one comment like that sticks with you even 31? OMG, I just did the math. Years later, duck that guy. He follows me on IG and he married my friend. Story 17. On being invited to a study session at her place, seeing how wealthy and well-to-do her family was. It didn't kill the crush, but I instantly realized how hopeless my crush was. Luckily for me, she didn't mind that my family mostly lived on food bank handouts. She was my first love and first angel. RIP P. Story 18. Story 19. When he got stupid around a girl our other roommate was interested in, she was polyamorous and using them to try and be near me. One night, I went to bed BC. I had to work, and my one roommate and I had been hooking up a bit seriously. He somehow convinced her to come hang out, I think, hoping he could mess around with her. At the time, I was led to believe she was already coming over for our roommate. So he and I were cuddling in my bed, and then, as we were about to kiss, he got a text from her that she had arrived and needed to be let in. He bolted so fast and excitedly with no notice of me. Annoying. Then she really wants to come in to see me? I pretended to be asleep and she kissed my cheek. Then he went to kiss me too, and I just rolled away. She laughed at him. They went out on the balcony for her to have a smoke. My window was open and she asked him why I gave him the cold shoulder. I think she's just really jealous of you, ha 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 ha, because I invited you to come hang out. That's how I found out he invited her, when he told me our roommate had. Nothing turns me off more than someone accusing me of jealousy because they're upset. I'm not getting competitive with someone trying to get the attention. Story 20. When I was 15, I had been dating my first boyfriend, who was an upperclassman, for a week. One rainy day, I was walking home when a car stopped next to me. It was the boyfriend, and he told me he could give me a ride to my apartment. I get in. Inside is his mom and little sister. We sat in silence for a little bit when his mom starts asking us about our day. Just when I was about to answer, he started whining something to the effect of, "Ugh, don't ask me that in front of my girlfriend, You're so embarrassing, gah." In that moment, he was so childish and so viscerally unattractive that the butterflies in my stomach dropped dead. As I said, he was an upperclassman, so I guess I had an expectation that he'd be more mature than me. A few days later, I made some excuse about how I wasn't ready for a relationship and broke up with him. I crap you not. He starts following me around school trying to talk to me again, and when I started ignoring him, he sent me a video of him crying his eyes out, with sad music in the background. The funniest thing is, his mom interrupted him during the filming of this, and he screamed at her to get out of his room. It really made me feel like I'd made the right decision. Story 21. A guy I had a crush on was driving me home from a party, and as we were driving, I saw a bunny rabbit about to cross the road, and I told him to slow down. He didn't stop or even slow down. He hit the bunny. I never talked to him again after that. Also, there were no cars by us. We live in a slow neighborhood. Story 22. When I was in college, I met a guy at a party. Thought he was so cute and was so excited when he asked for my number. We texted a little, and he asked to hang out one night. I told him I couldn't because I was working late. I was a waitress and wouldn't be off until after midnight, and I'd be so tired. He wouldn't take no for an answer. Not only did he want to hang out, but kept insisting I go to his house. At one point, he told me he would wait up for me with a bottle of vodka ready to give me a back massage and cuddles with a winky face emoji. I got instant ick. Any chance of wanting to see him went out the door. Way too strong, way too soon. Story 23. Not quite the same. But my boyfriend at the time, ex-now Obvi, and I were walking home and happened to pass by a homeless man holding a sign towards the road. For some reason, despite the fact that the homeless dude never even looked at us, he decided to start talking about how much he wanted to punch him. Broke up with him immediately afterwards. Story 24. Recently hooked up with this dude. I was feeling self-conscious and asked if he found me attractive after. He said yes and went on about his attraction to me. Finished it up with, "Even though you're not the hottest girl I've ever seen." Like, sir, that is not what I asked. IDK. That comment just felt unnecessary and did not make me feel great. Story 25. Was in high school and had a crush on this one boy. We were kind of friends. Then one day he told me about how he recently found out his best friend is gay and proudly confessed he made fun of that friend and told him he was disgusting and never to talk to him again. I got up from the table we were sitting at, told him off, and walked away. Never spoke to him again. Story 26. I had a summer job during college working on a farm, picking berries. The pay was terrible, but I honestly just did it for fun. I would just sit down and listen to music on my iPod while picking berries all day. The owner of the farm was an older man in his 50s or 60s. One day he tried to help me by tying a bucket around my waist, and I stupidly allowed him to. While he was doing this, he rested his hand on my breast for a few seconds, and I was frozen in shock. but I continued to go there thinking that maybe it wasn't intentional. Another day that I went there, it was very hot and I started to feel dizzy, so I sat in the shade to get some rest. The owner came up to me and asked me if I wanted to rest inside his house. Then he proceeded to try and kiss me. I ran away. Later on, I realized his 2 daughters went to my college and were close to my age. I was recounting the story to this guy I was dating, and he told me that it was basically my fault, and that I was asking for it because of what I was wearing. I would go there with yoga flares and a baggy long t-shirt. Completely lost interest in him after that. Story 27. I had this crush on a guy. He used to stare at me quite a lot, so I started paying attention and I found him sorta hot. So sometimes I'd also steal glances at him. We also used to end up having these staring contests here and there. This went on for a couple of weeks until this one day. We were in biology class learning about human reproduction. He'd start laughing with his friends whenever the teacher would say anything like coitus, penetration, condoms and stuff. Up until that point, I was in denial because the idea of him that I had was far from it. After that, the teacher started teaching us about lactation, and he asked us to explain whatever we knew about lactation one by one. His friend used the word breastfeeding somewhere in his explanation, which was completely fine. I can't see anything wrong with using that word, but they all started to snicker among themselves. That's when my teeny tiny crush on him died instantly. Trust me, we were not in 5th grade. In 5th. Story 28. Met another backpacker on one of the Aran Islands in Ireland. Spent 3 days hanging out and having intimate. We were really getting along and having fun, so we decided to travel on to Dublin together. He got off the bus at the midway point to take a smoke break and I stayed on. While standing out there, he met an Australian backpacker, got his stuff off, and deserted me. I watched it all go down from my window. Lol, it's funny now, but what an asshole. Story 29. Had a crush on a girl in high school but didn't share any classes. I just got into my car and it started to rain. Hard. I saw the girl start to run into the lot, trip and fall, spilling her books. I got out of my car to help her up and gather her books, and she yelled, "Get the fifth end away from me!" It couldn't have been more obvious that I was a fellow classmate. Killed that crush instantly. Story 30. I broke up with my ex just after he told me that before me, he was in a relationship with a 15-year-old girl. But that they broke up? Because she wasn't able to understand how the relationships were. And that after they broke up, she got hooked. He was a dream until that happened. I wasn't able to stop thinking that that wasn't okay, and about that poor girl. I lived something similar. When I was a teenager, I know how damaging is the grooming. Story 31. Overheard him with his friends saying stupid generalizations about women. The kind of things some guys just repeat without actually experiencing it with women, like, all women want is your money for nails and dinner. They're always seeing someone on the side, etc. The crush evaporated instantly. From then on, I just noticed every little ignorant thing he said, so I stopped being friends or even acquainted with him at all. Story 32. Would not stop bitching about his ex-wife. In our very first phone conversation after saying hello, he just launched into bad-mouthing the ex and wouldn't stop. He didn't ask me anything, just continued bitching. When he finally stopped talking about the ex, he started saying how excited he was for his kids to meet their new stepmother, aka me. Nah, mate, I'm good. Story 33. I had a crush on this girl in college who was our neighbor and an aspiring model. My crush just drained from my body when I saw her do a line of cocaine. Like something in my brain made her visually less attractive after that girl in Seinfeld, where she looks awful in good lighting. Was like looking at a different person. Story 34. Every story she told me was about some argument, conflict drama. And in every story she considered herself to be the paragon of virtue and honesty, while everyone around her would be vindictive, cruel, and out to get her. I recognize the behavior because my mom does the same thing, and I hate that kind of constant self-victimization. Story 35. He's younger than me, 4 years. So one day we were talking about what would have happened if we had started dating, proceeded to say, in a nutshell, that it would be great to date someone older, as it would give him more status in his group of friends, So basically, the guy wouldn't see me as his girlfriend, but as a person to show off as a trophy. That was it for me. Story 36. She talked excitedly about how she wanted to become a prostitute, essentially. And while I don't have a problem with someone doing that in principle, being that she was a childhood friend, Crush, I think it just shattered the mythos image I had had of her. That, and I don't think I would be happy being with someone whose job is to have intimate with strangers. Story 37. Girl in high school I had a crush on. I spotted her at one of the informal dances the school puts on a few times a year in the gymnasium on a Friday evening. Worked up the balls to ask her to slow dance with me during one of the love songs. She had one of the worst smelling breaths I've ever smelled. I seriously doubt she had ever been to a dentist. It was an instant turnoff as I was almost suffocating while holding my breath the rest of the song. Story 38. I had a crush on this guy in high school, and my friends kept telling me to approach him and talk to him, because that was how he would have known I existed. Obviously, he just couldn't have fallen in love with someone who was never known before. So I gathered the courage, and my friends watched on as I went to make my move and say hello. Tell me why in the middle of our conversation, he picks his nose and eats the booger. Whatever feelings I had for this guy definitely went out of the window and got hit by a truck or something. Thank you all for watching. Watch even more great stories on my channel.